Mentally, it destroyed his ministry. The next day, another pastor friend of mine called me. He said, "You hear what happened last night?" I said, "Boy, that was heavy." He said, "Heavy? That guy that did that fellowshipped in my church." I said, "Really?" And then the pastor said this. He said, "Fancy another Christian doing that to a pastor." I said, "Hang on a minute. When a man who says he's a Christian tries to cut the head off the pastor, you can probably assume that he lacks a little in the area of love, goodness, gentleness, self-control." And saints, we've got to stop putting our arm around everyone who professes faith and begin examining each other, see if we're in the faith, and knowing them by their fruits. Maybe when we're not in persecution, it doesn't matter. When in Paul's time they were in persecution, it mattered. Your life could be on the line if you welcome someone into your fellowship and said, "He's a Christian, just let him in." I remember once I was walking across the street, and I wish I had a video camera this day. I heard it down the other end of the street. He was in a car, no muffler. He was just coming down the street. I thought, "Get off the street before this guy kills me." Jumped off the road, stood on the sidewalk, and this car drove past. It screeched to a halt, slammed on the ankles, as we say down under. This guy got out who was just the ultimate false convert. Don't even have to hear it. He had his shirt unbuttoned to his navel, great big hairy chest, a great big wooden cross hanging on his chest to show he was a Christian. He had 3 one-way or Jesus stickers on the front windshield of his car. See, I don't think there's anything wrong with crosses or stickers on windshields, but you'll find a false convert will try to impress you outwardly with what he lacks inwardly. He wants to show you he's got plenty of branches because he lacks fruit. And this guy said to me, "Ray, I want to see you for counsel." I said I was busy for that decade, because I'd heard he had threatened the local pastors in town. A false convert will try to steal your time. The Bible speaks of false brethren, false apostles, false prophets, false teachers, and false converts. Let me read to you from Matthew 7, verse 15, if I may. This is Jesus speaking. He said this, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You'll know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit." Listen to what he says. "But a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit." So you've got someone who professes faith. He's going on good for Jesus, but he does have problems with beating up his wife. No. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit. Neither does a fountain bring forth sweet water and bitter water. A good convert will stand no matter what. Let me also read to you from Acts 20. This is what it says in Acts 20. This is what Paul said. "For I know this, that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also from your own selves men will rise up, speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them." You know, when Jim Joneses arrived on the scene, take away hundreds of people to their death, you look into their backgrounds. It was a time when he gave his heart to Jesus. You find weird sects that come up.
Jim Jones, who formed the People's Temple, had set up a colony of about 1,000 followers in Jonestown, Guyana in 1977. A year later, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan traveled to Jonestown to investigate claims that some of the people were being held hostage against their will. Cult members killed him as he tried to leave the country. The following day, Jones had 912 of his followers drink cyanide-laced punch to commit suicide with him. Jones, however, died from a gunshot to the head. Jones argued that since God was the force of love, then God incarnate must be the most loving person, and that person had to be Jones himself. Jones told his inner circle that of course he wasn't God, but the people were so religious that to bring them around to socialism, he had to tell them these things. His followers say they believed in his godlike qualities and said he could see into the future. Jim Jones said, "When your world has failed you, I'll be standing, because I am freedom, I am peace, I am justice, I am God." He also said, "It is written that you are a God. I'm a God and you're a God. and I'm a god, and I'm going to stay a god. Those investigating the suicide site in Guyana made a startling discovery, one that perhaps explains why the people could be so easily deceived. There were no Bibles in Jonestown. The cult members were weaned away from their Christian beliefs to follow Jim Jones.
From your own selves men will arise. People that get into the occult usually come from false converts. In the latter days, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. And the cause of it is modern evangelism. Because they don't use the law to bring the knowledge of sin. They just say, give your heart to Jesus. He'll help your marriage problem, drug problem, alcohol problem. There's no knowledge of sin. They give their heart to Jesus. Temptation, tribulation comes along. They fall away, and their latter end becomes worse than the first. They become what we call bitter backsliders. They rise up from our own selves and draw ones away. But a real convert, a genuine convert, brings forth fruit 100-fold. He doesn't bring forth bad fruit. You know, Jesus sent his lambs among wolves. He said, behold, I send you as lambs among wolves. Why did he do that? Because a true convert will stand no matter how much tribulation comes his way. Think of that little plant. Think of the good soil. Think of the heat of the sun. What's going to happen as the sun gets hot? The roots will just go deeper and deeper, searching for moisture. And that's what happens to a true convert. He doesn't fall away. He puts his hand to the plow and doesn't look back, for he's fit from the kingdom. Why did Jesus send his lambs among wolves? Because he knew the sunlight of tribulation, temptation, and persecution would cause the false to fall away and the genuine to grow. And that happened with Judas Iscariot. I wonder if you think Judas was a genuine convert. He was a Christian. You know, Judas had no idea who Jesus was. When a woman did a sacrificial act of worship, he complained that money should have been given to the poor. He didn't care about the poor. He was a thief. He was stealing. He was a worker of iniquity. He had no idea who Jesus was because he sold life manifest in the flesh for 30 pieces of silver. But Jesus gave us a good clue as to what Judas was. He said this, one of you is a devil. There's a good clue. If you read the book of Colossians, chapter 4, verses 7 to 14, you'll see something interesting. This is what it says. All my state shall Tychicus declare to you, who is a beloved brother. Now look at how Paul puts a seal of approval on certain believers. He said he's a beloved brother and a faithful minister and a fellow servant in the Lord, whom I've sent to you for the same purpose, that he might know your state and comfort your hearts. With Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, who is one of you. And as you go through this portion, you'll see Paul puts a seal of approval on different believers. But he gets down here to a man called Demas, and he doesn't give him a seal of approval. He says, and Demas greets you. And it's as though Paul looks at Demas and doesn't see fruit and says, I'm not going to commend you to the brethren. And we see why in the book of Timothy, chapter 4, verse 10 of 2 Timothy. Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world. Now we've looked at 6 characteristics of a false convert. Now let's look briefly at something more positive, some of the characteristics of a genuine convert.